What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Big thank you for coming back and joining me for season 4 of the Borussia Dortmund rebuild. If you've been with me for the past couple of episodes, you'd have seen we have now been crowned Bundesliga champions 3 times in a row. We are piecing the jigsaw together with the Wonder Kids to help this team to develop for the future. And there is one last thing to tick off the list, and that's to replicate the Champions League winners of 1997. So let's kick off the Season 4 review by looking at some transfers. We have jumped forwards to the 2nd of June 2026, and that means Season 4 is in the books. And as always, we have had some players that have left the club and players that have arrived at the club, so we're going to run through some of those before we move any further. Starting off on the right-hand side of the screen, as always, we're going to go through the players that have left the club before showing you the players that have come in. So let's start off by looking at who left the club. Now, we didn't do too much business in terms of letting players leave on permanent deals. We did have some loan players leave the club. We had Vasco Waltz go to Paderborn on a loan. We had Uberhorn go to Arminia Belfield on a loan also. Julian Rijkaard, the young Dutch striker, has gone to Regensburg on loan. We've got Luis Farini has gone back to England to play for Reading on loan. One that I thought, basically, if we look at him, he's not developing as I thought he might. A little bit disappointing, really, to say. He came in from Manchester City, looked like he had a pathway to being a decent player, but he's kind of stalled. His career hasn't progressed as much as we want. Wouldn't mind selling him back to England on a permanent deal. But in the short term, he has headed out on loan. He has ended up at Reading for the season. We then sold Ben Grist. He was another player that I thought we could bring in and develop. Unfortunately, didn't really give him the game time that he needed. Still only 21 years old, but another one that didn't develop as we would have liked. Also made him available for the reserve teams, and he also had a stint playing with the under-19s as well, but he just wasn't progressing as we thought he would. Ended up taking a bit of a hit on him as we allowed him to join Brighton's under-21s for 75,000. The next player to go out on a permanent deal was Heiko Salasus. We're going to go with that. He's a regen that has come through. He's 19 years old. Didn't really have too much potential according to our scouts when he was coming through, or should I say our youth team staff when he was coming through and signed for the club. But he has started to develop in his own little way. He has now gone out to Cologne. Don't think he was going to make it through into our first team, and he has left the club for 195,000, rising into 275,000. We then had Bashkim Azizi go to Karlsruhe on loan, and also Stanko Savic has gone to Regensburg with Julian Rijkaard on loan. So let's look at what transfers we did. Now, bearing in mind we are now Bundesliga triple champions. We have won the last 3 years. We're looking to defend our crown. We also now want to kick on and try and win the Champions League. So the players that we have brought in to try and help us do that, the first of which is João Veloso. He is a player who has come to us from Portugal. He was formerly at Benfica. 20 years old, valued at 56 to 75 million pounds. And you can see he's an absolutely wonderful footballer. Very much one for the future also. I'll be honest, he didn't really get the game time that we wanted to give him in terms of the first team, considering the price tag, but he is still a developmental player. I mean, you can see down here he's a squad player that could still improve, but he certainly is one that further down the line I think will get his chance sooner rather than later. The next player we signed was Bence Dardé. He is a attacking midfielder, can play wide left, play wide right, can play through the centre. That's the type of player that we really like. Ones that have got a bit of versatility about them. 20 years old, German player, so he helps fill some quotas as well. Scouts put him up as a decent signing. You can see at the bottom he's an exciting young prospect who isn't far from first team level. So we've already put him in the first team to try and get him some experience for this season. I think he's a player that could develop quite nicely as the game goes on. The next player we signed was Livano Comencia. He's a 22-year-old Dutch player. He was 21 when we signed him at the start of the season. It says he might not have the required ability, but it's not really about that at his age. Coming from young PSV, we needed a player who was a bit of versatility in terms of playing both left and right back. He's one that can step in for cup games, and he's a rotation option when the squad has injuries or suspensions. Don't really think he's going to progress much more than he is, but still he's a player who can play both sides, can also move into defensive midfield, so I thought he was a good purchase. Quite cheap, £4.5 million. It weren't really going to dent the old transfer kitty, but it's a deal that I think was quite sensible. And then we moved into the regen territory. The One of the first players we signed as a regen is Geronimo Prado. He is a defender centre. He has come to us from Penarol in Uruguay. He's Uruguayan, 18 years old, valued at 4.3 to 5.4 million pounds. He's an exciting young prospect who isn't far from the first team. However, we have tried to get him game time as much as possible to try and give him the best chance to get into the first team. Now, obviously, we wanted to do this with youth players. We're going to get to a certain stage in the game where all of the under 21s that we want to sign in real life are getting to that age where it's 22, 23 and we can't go out and buy them. There are a few deals that are nearly had in place for players that were just under that under 21s, but didn't work out, and then when we come back to sign them, they'd already passed the 21-year-old. So we've got deals like this done. I mean, it doesn't look very impressive, all these down arrows here, but I can tell you he's actually improving across the season. Yeah, I think he's a player very much for the future, and I think he's got a big say in what's going to happen in our defence for the next couple of seasons. And then finally, we went out and splashed the money on wonder kid Warren Zaire-Emery. He has come to us from Paris Saint-Germain. He played 200 games at PSG 2, 7 goals scored in that time. Also, whilst he's at PSG, he played 7 games for them. He's everything that we need, really. He's a rotation option for Bellingham and Gavi, can play in amongst them. He's obviously a player who's going to develop. Again, another one that says is an exciting young prospect who isn't far from the first team. Valued at 69 to 92 million pounds. It wasn't too difficult to get him away from PSG, which was a little bit unnerving because I thought they would have wanted to hold on to him as much as they can. Whether it's about development or game time, or whether PSG just wanted to get the money back, I'm not too sure. But he's a player that came in, and when we called upon him, he played some pretty good football. I think he's one again that he's going to develop, and now we have 3 midfielders who can interchange positions, and they're all around the age of 21. I think we've got Bellingham, Gavi and Zaire-Emery, who I think might all be under the age of 21, but they're all around that age bracket, and they really are going to be able to mesh together, and I think we're going to have a really strong midfield going forward. So that is all the transfer dealings that we have done. As you can see on the right hand side of the screen, we did not recoup a lot of money in this transfer window, only £325,000 coming back into the club, but the board did back us by giving us £85 million to spend, and we went and spent the absolute lot. I mean, the Veloso deal goes up to 36.5, so there is a little bit of add-ons there, and then Dardai going up to 2.8 from 2.8, which doesn't make sense, but I think there's a few clauses in there as well. Livano Comancia 4.5, Prado 4 million, and Zaire-Emery 45 million pounds. So I think it's money well spent. It's just a case of, as always, does the £85 million outlay translate into results? And the answer to that question is yes, the outlay did end up bringing us success. All of the money that we went out and spent was absolutely worth it, as we had the first season where we have won 4 trophies. Yes, we have been crowned Bundesliga champions once again. We have won the Champions League, the DFB Pokal and the DFL Super Cup. So absolutely fantastic. We have won every competition that we have taken part in. So let's have a little look at the DFL Super Cup first. We can show you that we beat Bayern Munich in the curtain raiser for the season. Beat them 1-0 with a goal from Karim Adeyemi, Gavi with the assist. And our players winning the game obviously had the best average ratings in the game. In the DFB Pokal, let's go back and have a little look through some of the rounds. So in the second round, we were paired off against Hannover 96. We managed to beat them comprehensively 4-1. In the third round, we were paired up with Bayer Leverkusen. We beat them 2-0. In the quarterfinals of the competition, we were paired up with Hertha Berlin. We swept them aside by winning 1-0. In the semi-finals, we beat Frankfurt 3-0. And then in the final, we beat Mainz 4-2 to collect the DFB Pokal. You can see Karim Adeyemi got 12 goals in the competition. Gio Reyna with 6 assists, Johansson with 5 assists and Bellingham with 4. Player of the Match awards, 2 of them went to Karim Adeyemi. Kobel getting 4 clean sheets in the competition. Sula did collect 3 yellow cards, but overall, fantastic way to win the DFB Pokal. And that leaves us to move on to the last 2, the big 2, the Champions League. If we start off by running you all the way back to the league phase, I mean, I know you can see there who we have beaten in the final, but we started off in fantastic form. We qualified in 6th place in the league format, where we played 8 games. We won 6 of them. We drew 1. we only lost one, and that was to Porto 4-0, which was a bit of an outlier. We had a 10-goal difference, and we ended up with 19 points, convincingly going through into the next phase. Into the knockout phase, we didn't need that because we qualified in the top portion. In the round of 16, we were paired off against Atletico Madrid. We ended up beating them 5-1 to advance through to the quarterfinals. In the quarterfinals, we were drawn against Juventus. We beat them 4-3 on aggregate. In the semi-finals, we were paired off against Chelsea and we beat them 4-2 on aggregate. And in the final, we came up against the mighty Barcelona and we beat them 2-1. Now, looking at some of the stats for this competition, you can see that in terms of goals, we didn't have a great goal scorer. Adeyemi did get 11, but he was 8 short of Erling Haaland. And when you come up against Erling Haaland, it's not very fair, is it? Average ratings, again, Haaland led the way in that, but Adeyemi got 7.58 for ourselves. Assists, Anthony led the way for Manchester United, and we didn't actually have a player that features in the top selection of assisters. Adeyemi got 5 Player of the Match awards. In terms of clean sheets, let's see where Kobel ranked. So he's down here with 4 clean sheets in the competition. Salih Ozcan getting 8 yellow cards. Now we've got 14.43 kilometres covered per 90 minutes, which is quite impressive. And that rounds off a successful Champions League campaign. Absolutely fantastic to be able to replicate the team of 1997, bringing a second Champions League back to Dortmund. And then finally, let's show you how we cruise to another Bundesliga title. If we go to the league and show you everything that happened there, you can see that we played 34 games. We won 26 of them. We drew 3. We lost 5. Scored 101 goals on the season. Conceded 38. Had a goal difference of 63, had 81 points. And we won the league by 11 points from Bayern Munich and a lot more to the teams behind. So again, comprehensive winners of the Bundesliga. We played some fantastic football across the season, and it's all highlighted by the fact that you can see Karim Adeyemi managed to get himself 24 league goals and was the top scorer in the league. He also had a 7.42 average rating, and he was the top average rater in the league. Giovanni Reina getting himself a 7.39 average rating. Gavi managed to bag himself 11 assists across the season. Player of the Match award, Šeško led the way, but you had Reina on 4. Did we have anybody else? Bargi on 3, and Karim Adeyemi getting 3 also. Clean sheets, Kobel 16 across the season, which is not too bad considering we conceded, I think it was 38 goals. He still ended up on 16 clean sheets. We had Nyanzu getting 13 bookings, and then let's see, did we have anybody distance covered? So Nauf with 15.03, Pembele down there with 14.5, and Johannesson with 14.33. In terms of tackles per 90 minutes, did we have anybody in that category? We didn't. And in terms of dribbles per 90 minutes, we didn't have anybody there either. So all in all, a fantastic way to win another Bundesliga, and a fantastic way to end season 4. It's been brilliant to bring this team so far. To get 4 competitions in a single season really is some achievement when you win certainly the big 3 that you can win in the Bundesliga, the Champions League and DFB Pokal, and to kick the season off fantastic. We really just did not look back after winning that competition. Let's have a quick run through then of the finances to show you where we are standing heading into season 5. As you saw, we had an outlay of £85 million in the previous season, only bought £325,000 in. It means that in the bank we have actually £262 million. That's probably what happens when you win the Bundesliga 4 times on the bounce, and now you start bringing Champions League winnings in as well. Of that £262 million, we're getting £59.5 million to spend for the final season. We have a wage budget of £2.9 million available and 2.5 being spent, so there is a massive gap there in terms of what we are going to be able to use to attract the kind of players that we want. In terms of the Champions League, financial fair play is on course for that, and again, at the start of the save, when we had that one dip in April of 2023, those money concerns really have not materialised. Everything now is heading in the right direction. We did make a small loss on the month, but in terms of the season, £49 million profit, £89 million last season. The club is going in exactly the way that we wanted it, and luckily for us, there is some more money to spend to strengthen the squad. Let's have a little look at the club vision tab then. So our job security is very secure. In terms of the actionable objectives, work within the wage budget on course. Grow the club's reputation. They are delighted. Obviously winning the Champions League is going to aid that. Maintain the club's status as the most reputable team in Germany. We're on course for that. Minimum 4-year contracts for first team players. They're not judging. And then next season now, they want to reach the latter stage of the Champions League once again. Win the Bundesliga once again. They want the youth facilities improvement to be complete. Work towards becoming the most reputable team in Europe, and work to become the most reputable team in the world. Now, if you remember at the very start of the save, I said that Dortmund are probably one of the most famous teams, certainly in Germany, maybe Europe, but now they want world domination. And I think if we go out and win Champions League in the next season, they really would be on course to go and start making a big stir in worldwide football. Looking at the board and the board feedback, so we get an A- for our success. Not too sure what we could have done more to have got anything better, like 4 trophies gone through the season, absolutely destroying some teams. There were a few questionable results, but there's nothing in terms of criticisms. But if we run through these, the board culture is play attacking football, delighted. Develop players using the club's youth system, very pleased. Play entertaining football, very pleased. Play possession football, pleased. Play high tempo pressing football, delighted. Make the most of set pieces, pleased. In terms of the highlights, pleased with a 3-2 victory against Bayern. Pleased with a 4-2 final against Mainz. And pleased with the 2-1 Champions League victory over Barcelona. If we look at the supporters, let's see if that mirrors the board. So A- as well. Now obviously there is one big glaring thing we could improve here, but I keep explaining it's difficult to do that. We are signing a few German youth players, but it's not enough to appease the fans. But the supporter culture, develop the club using the youth system, they're delighted. Play attacking football, delighted. Sign those German players is the one that disappointed. Play high tempo pressing football, delighted. Play entertaining football, pleased. Make the most of set pieces, pleased. Maintain the club's status as the most reputable team in Germany, on course. Then they want to finish above Schalke. We do that every year anyway. Get the better of Bayern Munich. We're starting to get on top in that battle, and they want to win the Bundesliga again next season. And again, the highlights, 3-2 victory against Bayern. Delighted with Rainer's performances and delighted with Adeyemi's recent performances. Karim Adeyemi absolutely deserves a shout out. He's been absolutely fantastic. I mean, if we just throw him up a second and go to his history tab, you can see he's scoring goals for fun. 20 goals, 29, 24. He's just getting better and better, and I think this kid is an absolute must keep at the club, especially if you are managing Dortmund like I am. You have to make sure that that contract is watertight. We are running into a few issues with him. I think he's starting to outgrow the club, but luckily for us, he's contractually bound to us to the next season, so I don't think we're going to have too many issues with keeping him, certainly for the last season of the save. Speaking of the last season of the save, then let's go and have a look at what our finishing starting 11 was from season 4. Running through both versions of the squad planner as always, you can see that this version is the scout report with the best 11, and it starts off with Kobel in goal, Christiansen, Schlotterbeck, Sula and Nauf at right back, which is strange. I thought he was more of an attacking player, but okay, I would personally put Pembele in there. You've got Gavi, Emre Can, Jude Bellingham, so again you've got players that can come in. You've got Zaire Emery, we've got Johannesson. Can mix and match those players. We have a really good squad depth in terms of that area of the pitch. On the left, you've got Gio Reyna, but again, you could have Skelder up. You've got Malera on the right. Again, Adeyemi could play there, and then you could have Makoko up top. But this version of the best 11 thinks Adeyemi is our best striker, and Makoko can't get in the team. Looking at the strengths, top goal scorer, Adeyemi, 24 strikes, leads anyone else in the competition. He's been in fantastic form with a 7.7 in his last 5 matches. Number of talented youth prospects, including Luke Rahman, Charles Herman and William Rashidi. Dribbling, finishing, flair, agility, through balls. 51 of a total 117 assists in the last 50 matches have come in that manner. Sula is one of good 6 options at right back. We have good defensive depth, good defence. Everything is going well in terms of the strength on that side. In terms of the weaknesses, we do have issues with marking, tackling, which is a bit strange considering if you look at our back 4, if you was to take Nauf out, which I do firmly believe he's a right midfielder / winger, but it could probably improve there. But other than that, I think we're actually decent at tackling. Kicking amongst the goalkeepers, positioning in the goalkeepers, goalkeeper depth. I think basically these weaknesses are all set up against goalkeepers. If your goalkeeper's just not fantastic, then You're going to find the weaknesses are singling out your goalkeeper, but hey ho, we're not going to be changing the goalkeeper for the final season. Command of area, one-on-ones, teamwork, work rate is something. Players still don't want to seem to work hard. We did up the training, slightly tweaked it to try and get a bit more out of them, but nothing really happening there. It's still a weakness. However, weakness is winning for trophies. Lack of competitive aggression and players struggling for form. Geronimo Prado has struggled for form recently, so he's a young player coming to Germany from Uruguay, so he's always going to take time to adapt. So no real worries in terms of that. In the other best 11, so the squad planner, so Sebastian Gepper is our assistant manager. You can see he's got Kobel in goal, Christiansen, Schlotterbeck, Sula and Nauf, Gavi, Emre Can and Bellingham, Reina, Malero and Adeyemi up top. Looking at the purple players, which are the next gen that is going to come through. So we've got Kirsch in goal, Roth, Prado, Nyanzu, Azizi at right back, Semestin, Raymond and Warren Zaire Emery in the middle, Skelderup, Bargi and Endrick up top. So I think really in terms of both versions of this, Rooney Bargi is really unlucky not to get in. I think him and Malero are really similar players. Bargi has been fantastic when he did play. Skelderup obviously the same with Gio Reyna, and it's really good to have that depth in and around the squad. I mean, we've got Endrick, who is probably the best wonder kid in FM23, can't get a game at the moment because of both Adeyemi, Makoko and then himself. So it's been fantastic building this squad. It really has kind of been a gathering of wonder kids. When you do a youth save, sometimes don't know how it's going to turn out, whether you can attract those types of players. Obviously Dortmund having that track record of picking up players, developing them has really helped us, and that is exactly what we are doing, and it's all building up to a fantastic 5th season of the save, which is going to be coming very, very soon. Right, if you're still here at this point of the video, firstly, a big thank you. Secondly, if you haven't hit the like and subscribe button already, please consider doing so. It really, really helps the channel. It really helps me to get the videos out to everybody. And I want to say thank you, because the growth on the channel across the past couple of months has been absolutely fantastic. Cannot say thank you enough. Before you go, there's other things on the channel such as Wonder Kids, tips, hints, tutorials, tactics videos. There's a bit of something for everybody on the channel, so don't forget to check that out too. But for this one, I'm going to wrap it there. Don't forget to come back and join me on the season finale of the Borussia Dortmund rebuild.